Hello, everyone. Good evening. A little bit of a switch up tonight. Based on timing and availability, I switched the shows. If you were expecting true crime and legal updates, I assure you that's still going to happen tomorrow. But I needed more time than I have tonight to actually cover what we want to talk about for true crime and legal updates. So I'll switch Wednesday and Tuesday. Because tonight I have something a little shorter that I could fit in that I really wanted to talk about. In It's good to see everybody. Thank you all for being here, and for those of you joining later, I thank you also. While you are here, don't forget to hit that like, hit the back of the comment section, and if you like the content, subscribe. Maybe share it with somebody of like minds or someone you want to share it with. That would be great. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, in researching some of the weirder or wilder or just not understandable lawsuits that happen from week to week, well, I came across this one. And, well, it did hit the news, but it didn't really hit the news very hard. And nobody was really talking about it. So, of course, being the wily little bear that I am, of course I'm going to. Well, today I'm going to go over with you what I call the $15 billion nothing burger. Because, well, back on the 15th, a week or so ago, our president, Donald Trump, decided to sue the New York Times. Yes, he was going to sue them. He sued the Times and several other defendants, mostly of those that write articles, journalists, and reporters for the paper, in the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Florida. Yes, Florida. And for those of you that like to research, that's case number 825CV2487 SDM NHA. Well, anyway, it was submitted. And let me just tell you about the parties. We've got Donald Trump, of course, as the plaintiff. And then the defendants are the New York Times, Susan Craig, a New York Times investigative reporter, Russ Butner, New York Times investigative reporter, Peter Baker, a New York Times chief White House correspondent, and Michael Schmidt, a reporter for the Times, and then Penguin Random House, an actual book publisher. Yes, that Random House. Yes, he's going to sue the book publisher. So his legal team for Trump is represented by Alejandro Brito and Daniel Epstein and Edward Platnick. As I said, the judge on this case, Judge Merrill. There was no actual defendant counsel that appeared yet because, well, first we'll tell you what he claimed and then we'll tell you what happened. The filing was 85 pages and it centered on allegations that, well, the defendant, the New York Times, engaged in a coordinated campaign of defamation designed to damage his business reputation and undermine the 2024 presidential campaign. It contained 2 counts of defamation, but it didn't present the first formal defamation claim or give us anything about it until page 80. That's why it's on this show. I had to read 85 pages. I had to read 80 pages on this filing before I found out what it was about. But the specific publication targeted or complaint, it contains 2 counts of defamation. One of them is in regards to a book. The filing specifically mentions this book called Lucky Loser, How Donald Trump Squandered His Father's Fortune and Created the Illusion of Success. This is by Craig and Butner, and it was published last year in 2024 by Penguin Random House. The book alleged that Trump's wealth came largely from fraudulent tax evasion schemes involving his father's inheritance, and that his celebrity status was primarily due to producer Mark Burnett's work on The Apprentice. Now, most of us know all of this. That was not news in 2024. All of this, as far as I can recall, being around a little bit, not 20, I've heard all this. I heard every word of that. And most of what's in this book well before and by many, many others. So, of course, it struck me as odd that, well, why are you suing them now for this? This is something that's been widely circulated. And, having dealt with defamation lawsuits a little bit here and there, well, we have definitely covered plenty of them for the channel and done opinions and commentary on them and dug into the legal filings and learned the definitions and legal terms everywhere, including Florida. It struck me as really, really odd because, well, repeating a public rumor that's well known and out there and circulating by many is really hard to pin on one person for defamation. But I digress. I'll get into the rest of it. The other items that are mentioned are articles that Peter Baker wrote an article in October of 2024 titled, "For Trump, a Lifetime of Scandal Heads Towards a Moment of Judgment." Michael Schmidt wrote an article after this book was released on October 22nd of 2024 that said, as election nears, Kelly warns Trump would rule like a dictator. This in reference to Kelly, a former Trump administration personnel. It featured an interview with Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly. Some of us may remember the name from the first administration. And then, defendants Craig and Butner preview the article about their book. And then the New York Times editorial board endorsement of Kamala Harris is mentioned because, like other papers and other publications during a presidential election, when it gets closer and closer after looking at the platforms and all, they weigh in for one side or the other. In this publication, the New York Times weighed in for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris got their seal of approval, so to speak. This is also very odd. Most candidates, win or lose, don't sue for who decides to back them. But anyway, the John Kelly controversy in the filing, after many, 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 many pages of reading of what really just turned out to be a gloat and bloat campaign promise or some sort, some kind of public relations spiel. But the John Kelly controversy is really kind of narrows down to, in the Smith article, that what really upset Trump, and he, through his lawyers, is litigating in here about, is that it featured the former White House chief of staff, John Kelly, stating that Trump certainly prefers, and I quote, certainly prefers the dictator approach to governance and fits into the general definition of fascist. Kelly also confirmed Trump's admiration for Hitler generals and recounted Trump saying Hitler did some good things. I can see why he'd be upset about this, but is it defamation if he said it? Is John Kelly not allowed to recall bad things that somebody says? And is an interviewer responsible for the opinion of somebody else that they're talking about? I mean, the interviewer asked if the person said, and now the interviewer is listed in the defamation suit. But it isn't the interviewer that said it. The interviewer is just the one who put out the article. Now, about the book allegations, the Lucky Loser book. That book challenged Trump's original story of building his empire from a small loan from his father, instead alleging that it was a systematic system of tax fraud and suggesting Trump's business success was largely his illusionary. Trump's complaint accused the authors of maliciously peddling fact-free fiction about his relationship with the Apprentice producer Mark Burnett. And it actually, well, it is true that he was on The Apprentice and he had a relationship with Mark Burnett, and it is true that he did inherit money from his father. And basically, the allegation from the plaintiff is that they pieced together the facts in such a way to just make him look horrible, and they accentuated certain parts and really didn't. They put it all in a bad light. Now, this lawsuit, right out of the get-go, faces significant legal hurdles. Under established First Amendment doctrine, as a public figure, Trump was required to prove actual malice in writing articles, and, putting facts together that are facts. You have to actually show malice. That defendant, he had to show that the defendants knew that the statements were false, or that they acted with reckless disregard for the truth, like some kind of a conspiracy plot, to do all this to him. And from what I read, and I read more articles on this that actually had some substance in the first paragraphs or so, and not 80 pages later, legal experts universally described the lawsuit as, well, meritless and lacking specific allegations of false statements of fact. Although these things occurred, the articles are there. They were printed. Everybody can read them. And the book was published. In Penguin Random House did publish it. But what is the substantial false statements in any of them? Besides the fact that they made him look bad, that are merit a lawsuit or actually qualify for the malice part of defamation. And well, if something's true, as you and I and many out here on YouTube have discussed, it's not actually defamation. Just because it's painted in a little different light, you say it and you make a joke about it, or you link it with other things that make it look even worse. If it's still a fact and you said it, it's not defamation. Is it unkind? Yeah. Is it rude? Probably. Snarky, bitter, all those things, even petty. But is it defamation? I don't think so. And apparently, I was thinking, like a lot of these other experts, that, well, no way. Anyway, we did get a court finding, okay? The complete docket is very short. It was filed on the 15th. It included 7 exhibits, which were excerpts from the articles and the publishing of the book and yada, yada. It was 85 pages long, as I told you, and it was filed with a jury demand, okay, and a request for $15 billion in damages. Yes, he didn't like what you said, and now he wants you to give him $15 billion. Now, defamation, for those that are public figures, has another caveat. You have to actually prove you suffered monetary loss due to reputation loss or slander and defamation. That this actual misrepresenting of the facts to make him look bad cost him a lot of money. $15 billion. That's the asking. Notably, on the 16th, the case was signed to Senior District Judge Stephen D. Merriday and Magistrate Judge Natalie Hurt Adams. Counsels were all notified about the local rules for lead counsel designation and such, and notice also on the file requiring pro hac vitae motions for out-of-state attorneys of Mr. Epstein and Mr. Palazzi with Trump. On the 19th, Judge Merriday issued an order. I would like to state that prior to that, there were no motions filed because, well, there's really not been a lot of time. We don't even know what lawyers would be representing the defendants, the New York Times, the investigative reporters, the publisher, publishing house. We don't know. No traditional motions to dismiss were filed because, well, let's get down to why I say that the $15 billion case, this lawsuit, this defamation filed against the New York Times for $15 billion by Donald Trump. Why it's a nothing burger? Well, because it took Lacey 4 days for Judge Merriday to come out and, struck the complaint so policy on his own initiative before defendants needed to respond. He struck it, an extraordinarily rare occurrence in federal court. It was filed in federal court, by the way. Well, I've never seen something get kicked that fast, but he did. He did. And, well, let me tell you what he said were the reasons. But his filing it and kicking it so fast, this order on the 19th, is why it's on this show today. Because, wow, okay, excuse me. Although reading it, I could see why they might, and that, but I did think it would take longer. Anyway, Judge Merriday's September 19th ruling, and his order was harshly critical of this legal filing, finding it violated Rule 8A of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, which requires a short and plain statement of the claim. Well, that I could see why annoyed the judge. If it took 80 pages to get to what he was talking about on page 85, about what was said that annoyed him so much, yeah, I could see. And the judge's specific criticisms, and these come right from the order itself. He said that the complaint was decidedly improper and impermissible, in that it contained tedious and burdensome language irrelevant to legal claims. And I have to agree with him there. It kind of read like you can't say that about me because I'm so great, for 80 pages. It read more like a political manifesto than a legal document. Yes, Judge Merriday said that. It was filled with florid and enervating phrases and praise for Trump. It read like a public relations campaign commercial of all the great things that Trump has done. And it served as a protected platform to rage against an adversary. In this way, he's kind of soft pedaling and accusing Trump and team of actually using the legal system to beat up on somebody who said something they didn't like. Anyway, notable judicial quotes. Yeah, there were some. And I love reading legal briefs. And I spit my coffee on a few of these. So in the order, the judge states, a complaint is not a megaphone for public relations or a podium for a passionate oration at a political rally, or the functional equivalent of the Hyde Park Speaker's Corner. Yes, that's what the judge said. And then he says, as every lawyer knows or is presumed to know, a complaint is not a public forum for vituperation and invective, not a protected platform to rage against an adversary. In other words, this ain't the place, sir. This is not the place. The complaint department is over there. This is the legal court. This is where simple proceedings of wrongdoing happen. Over there is the complaint department, and this is where we file legal claims. Yes, the judge was not happy at all. Yeah. So the defendant, of course, Trump is, of course, absolutely furious, and I don't blame him. I mean, it is kind of extraordinary that in 4 days, this ruling came down. He said, well, we welcome the judge's swift ruling, which recognized that the complaint was a political document rather than a serious legal filing. Now, that was the New York Times, okay, not Trump's team. That was the New York Times. Penguin Random House said they welcomed the dismissal and characterized the lawsuit as baseless. First Amendment organizations all rose up and said, The Ninth First Amendment Institute at Columbia University called it a frivolous on its face and designed to impose crushing legal costs on media organizations. In other words, it was a threat. PEN America, another First Amendment organization, described it as weaponized litigation that threatens an independent press. Trump's team responded with their next steps. Trump's legal team indicated that they would refile within the 28 deadline that Judge Merriday did say. He said, hey, rework it, put it in the format where it should be, present it as an actual legal document and not a political manifesto within 28 days, and we'll go forward. We'll look at it again. A spokesman for Trump's team said that President Trump is going to continue to hold the fake news accountable through this powerhouse lawsuit against the New York Times, its reporters, and Penguin Random House, in accordance with the judge's direction on logistics. In other words, okay, we heard what the judge said. We're going to go back. We're going to refile it. Now, all fun and games aside, the reason I want to talk about this is, well, we do have laws that protect us against people really going out and hurting us with defamation, really trying to attack our business, pull us down and all. But those rules do change for public figures. And I think you all will agree with me that a political person is a public figure. It's the mainstay of what they do and what they are. Now, the reason that you have to show monetary damage and you have to show actual malice is that, is it not common fodder in political conversations and discourse and everything for them to attack each other and to say horrible things? And, well, this particular litigant is rather known for saying things against anybody who opposes him at will, true or not. And yet, he's going to use the legal system to be a little bit hypocritical here and just say, I don't like what you said, and so I'm going to use the law to shut you up. I don't know. Anybody that's following our other series who followed the 50th law or is following the 48th law, sometimes you have to weigh out when you fight back against reputational issues like this. A lawsuit like this, in broader context, it may bring the spotlight out, but it does look a little frivolous, and it does look like a misuse of the system, and it could weigh even more heavily on a reputation you're trying so hard to protect. And I do understand being angry. I do. It's not nice to read horrible things about us in the paper, is it? And it's not nice for people to distort the facts. I'd be angry too. Of course, I think most of us would, but none of us would really have any more right than he does to actually file a lawsuit about it. We have to prove the case. Legal experts really are weighing in that this one's going to be difficult because in the broader legal context, this lawsuit represents part of Trump's broad legal offensive against major media organizations. He doesn't like the press because the press talks negatively about him. And I would agree, the press does. They do. They talk negatively about a lot of people. The media has turned into some kind of big bully machine against whatever is trending, and it's a big headline grabber. Rather than say something nice about something you do, they'll find the one little thing that's wrong with it and put that in big bold letters up there. It's kind of what they do. But is it suable? Although I will admit, I got my own issues with the media and how they handle things. I don't know if a one-on-one fight about a particular issue is really going to solve it. I don't. He has filed in the past similar suits, Trump has, against the Wall Street Journal over the Jeffrey Epstein reporting for $10 billion. And he's also gone after CBS News and ABC News, both that settled out of court. Okay. Well, this case occurs amid what critics describe as an unprecedented governmental crackdown on press freedom, with Trump suggesting certain television networks should have their broadcast licenses revoked, while saying that they're just not good and he wants them gone. if he doesn't like what they're saying and they're doing. Some actually on the platforms are saying this is a bit of an overreach. It actually goes against the foundation of our freedom of speech. And for a political figure who campaigned mostly on us being cramped on what we're allowed to say and do, in a Republican Party that used to represent less legislation meant more freedoms, and that was the American way, it does seem a bit hypocritical. It does seem like an overreach, and it may not be sending the message that he hopes. But hey, I understand where he's coming from. Nobody likes to be picked on. I get it. And I don't think you need 85 pages to say that. I don't. Okay, so just to sum it up, in looking at everything that all of the legal law experts, and there wasn't a lot on YouTube about it, to be honest. I had to actually delve into more of the political side of YouTube, which I really just watch privately and I don't really get into much. And this is not a political statement. This is definitely a what the F legal thing. Like, this made me scratch my head. And I don't really have a problem with Trump expressing the freedom to file a lawsuit. I just want him to file a proper one so it doesn't end up my show. I don't want to talk about it. Like, just file it properly so that it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb and a running joke. Like, that would be good. Just file better. That's my point. File better. There were plenty of issues there. There's plenty of overreach by the media that could be addressed without silencing them. Let's talk about their irresponsibility. Let's talk about their damage to the public. Let's talk about their misuse of influence. Let's talk about all of that stuff. But going after their First Amendment right of free speech is going to be really tough. Like, let's not start there. It's not productive, in the long run. Legal expert analysis from everywhere that I looked, well, everybody is saying, especially constitutional scholars focusing on the amendments, and the media law experts universally dismissed this lawsuit as legally baseless, noting it appeared designed more for public relations impact than courtroom success. And I would have to agree. I would also agree it was a dangerous move because that public opinion could go the other way. The New York Times versus Sullivan in 1964 is the precedent that sets an extremely high bar for public figures to win defamation cases. It requires proof that the media defendants acted with actual knowledge of falsity or reckless disregard for the truth. In other words, not just that they strung it together that made it look worse than it was. It actually has to be false. They actually had to be malicious in putting out false information out there to hurt him. The case is swift dismissal by the way, Republican appointed judge. So he's not going to be able to blame this one on the prior administration or his opponents. This is one of their guys. And judges are neutral. Judges like the law. This judge underscored the fundamental legal deficiencies in Trump's complaint and kind of highlighted the tension between the political rhetoric and established First Amendment protections and for the press freedom. There's been recent things happening in regards to picking and choosing who gets to do the press conferences at the White House, who gets to ask the questions, everybody being vetted. Their past articles and opinions in regards to politics are all being vetted through on whether or not they can even approach a presidential conference and ask a question. And, well, that too is going to be coming up, in the broader context of looking at all of this. And in today's climate of like us versus them and the mad intensity of all of the regurgitated rhetoric that I would say, I would feel confident in saying the majority of us are really sick of, well, something like this doesn't actually help. But thank you for actually listening. I do appreciate it. And I want to hear what you have to say about it. And please, I'm not bashing the president. I would be pissed too if people were talking negatively about me. The only thing that I was annoyed about is waiting 85 pages, getting to the 81st page before I actually heard what the lawsuit was about. And well, sir, I will remind you, you've got a public relations team and a microphone available to you at all times at a podium. You don't need to use the legal system to do it. It's not a public relations platform. Well, it's kind of going to turn on you the other way. Like, even though you think you've got a point, the media is out of control. And yes, everybody here and all of you coming in new may not know, but if you listen to the bear, you hear it a lot. It's one of the main reasons I get on that platform and start spouting bearisms and shit that nobody really pays attention to because this is like a bad woman ranting. But yeah, the media inflames my ire. It often. They act in bad faith a lot. And so I don't blame them for being mad, but I don't think this is the way to handle it. At least not the way it was filed. Take it back. Get yourself a constitutional lawyer. Get yourself a lawyer that can actually write better, for one, and isn't actually trying to kiss your butt for 79 pages before he gets to the judge's attention, because that's not going to work. I mean, that's going to make you feel great. And I'm happy for you that you have people around you that do that. That must feel good, but it's not going to work in a legal filing, and it didn't. And so if you don't want to get it kicked, let's get somebody a little more efficient in the paper turning over there. And I look forward to actually maybe speaking about the next one that you file, the update, and giving you a fair share to make your case, because I'm not just going to drop it with the funny and the ha-ha. In fairness to you and to show the media that this is really like how it will be done. Take notes. I'll give you another shot with that other filing and come out here and give the same amount of time to the whole situation and tell everybody what it's about, But this just kind of just read like a hissy fit, and the legal system is no place to express it, sir. With all due respect. But thanks for the content for the week. On that, I will see you all tomorrow for True Crime and Legal Updates. Let me just check the chat for those that came to see me live. Hello, everyone. It is good to see you. Thank you for all the otters. Oh my gosh, otters make me feel so much better. It's so good to see them all. It is so good to see so many familiar faces. I'm very happy that you all stopped by, And on that, yes, it's a very short one. These are very short, everyone. Because it's usually just a case that really shouldn't be a case, or I'm trying to figure out why it's a case. It's a little bit of an oddball. I'm sorry if you just got here, but my time is limited tonight. On that, I am going to cut it short, but I will be back tomorrow around the same time. We've got a much longer true crime and legal update. We've got a lot going on in the Luigi Mangione case. We've got some updates on Barry Morphew and more, because it's Mangione, Morphew, and more tomorrow, Wednesday instead of Tuesday, around the same time. On that, I'll see you all then, and have a great night. And like I said, let's not bash the opponents. Let's listen to them and let's give them a fair shot. But let's hope that this filing comes through a little bit more coherent next time. On that, good night all.